You're a podcast listener, and this is a podcast ad. Reach great listeners like yourself with podcast advertising from Lips and Ads. Choose from hundreds of top podcasts offering host endorsements, or run a reproduced ad like this one across thousands of shows to reach your target audience with Lips and Ads. Go to lipsandads.com now. That's LIBSYN ads.com.
It's the final day of May, Friday, May 31st, 2024, and this is the Washington Times front page. Thanks for joining us. I'm George Gerbo. A New York jury has found former President Donald Trump guilty of all 34 charges in a scheme to illegally influence the 2016 election through a hush money payment to an adult film actress. The verdict, Tom Howell reports, came after 11 hours of jury deliberations across 2 days, making Trump the first former American president to be convicted of felony crimes. Trump was seated as the verdict was read, briefly shaking his head as the foreperson repeatedly said guilty to all of the counts. Trump, who faces up to 4 years in prison for each count, is expected to appeal the verdict. He says the case is a charade to thwart his presidential run, noting prosecutors sat on the case for years before procuring an indictment. Speaking of an appeal, legal affairs reporter Alex Swoyer looks at 3 key issues Trump can argue on appeal to overturn his conviction. One is that prosecutors never identified an underlying felony to the misdemeanor bookkeeping charges that had lapsed. The other 2 issues involve boundless character testimony and prejudicial evidence that the judge allowed to be admitted. Some legal analysts say adult film actress Stormy Daniels' testimony about the alleged sex acts could be viewed as prejudicial because it was unrelated to the business record-keeping charge at issue in the trial. The verdict is expected to energize Trump's base and potentially motivate more Republicans in swing states to turn out to support him in the presidential election. Susan Ferricchio reports polling showed the vast majority of people who planned to vote for Trump weren't going to change their minds, regardless of a conviction. The verdict could also cost Trump some of his newly built support among independents. In an Emerson College The Hill poll, more than 30% of independent voters in Georgia, Michigan, Nevada, and Wisconsin said they would be less likely to vote for Trump after a guilty verdict. Top universities such as Harvard, Georgetown, and Cornell will once again require SAT scores in admissions after implementing a test-optional approach that was intended to favor minority applicants. Sean Salai reports several university officials said they suspended SAT requirements in 2020 because COVID-19 prevented most high school students from taking the exam in person. They said that the past 4 years of experience and research have demonstrated that SAT scores help rather than hinder their efforts to attract racially diverse student bodies. Large state schools including Tennessee, Texas, and Wisconsin have done the same in recent months. And finally, early returns from elections in South Africa indicate that after 30 years in power, the African National Congress has lost its governing majority. Late Thursday, with more than 20% of the votes counted, projections put the party at no more than 45%, which would give it 180 of the 400 seats in South Africa's parliament. The official count and final results are not expected until this weekend. Find all today's front page stories at WashingtonTimes.com/front page or the Washington Times app, and find us wherever you get your podcasts. You can also find us on social media at Wash Times for breaking news, sports, commentary, and more. For the Washington Times, I'm George Gerbo.